Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining us for our Tuesday weather update, recorded on October the 10th. Windy weather is dominating New Zealand off and on this week, including on Saturday for Election Day, where there could be severe gales and heavy rain pushing into both main islands, especially the wind. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's kick off with the current windy weather around New Zealand. Sou'westers blowing through across many regions, maybe curving around a bit more as a southerly or southeasterly for some other regions here to the east or to the lower part of the North Island. But generally speaking, it's a big windy sou'wester across the country, while Australia mostly settled with high pressure. Just a bit of a southerly flow coming in here for southern parts of Western Australia. So let's have a look at that rain for Australia. Not much coming through, but there's a little more now showing up for Victoria, 10 to 20 millimetres. So I'm sure you'll be happy with that. And a little bit more for Tasmania as well, mostly central western areas. We've got a New Zealand rainfall map in a moment, but let's kick off with the Wednesday air pressure. And you can see high pressure dominating here over Sydney and Canberra, but that is bringing in a southerly flow for New Zealand. So it'll be a little bit colder on Wednesday in the North Island, but the temperatures lift up a little bit in the lower South Island because of this windy westerly that is blowing through. So this is 3 p.m. and it shows severe gales, 110, 120 k's an hour in this zone here. So that includes Fovo Strait and Stewart Island. For Southland itself, 80, 90 kilometre an hour gusts, they might go up a little bit higher. So yes, the potential for trees and branches down and some power cuts as well. The good news is on Thursday, those severe gales ease almost as fast as they arrived. It is blustery though for Auckland now with that sou'wester blowing through and a few showers, but because there's high pressure nearby, there won't be much rain coming into the north of the country. But speaking of rain, here is the next cold front coming into Adelaide, Melbourne and Hobart, and then later on into Canberra as it falls apart. But that will bring a temperature drop for you and that rain that we just talked about. Now let's go back to New Zealand. We've got rain arriving in New Zealand from Thursday onwards. So this is from Thursday morning for the next 3 days, taking you through into the weekend. Most of the rain is over on the west coast, 100 to 125 millimetres is the current estimate. So you've got that on top of the windy weather. The good news is dry for the top of New Zealand and dry really for the eastern side of the country. Classic spring where it's raining on the western side and just windy and dry on the east. So here we are on Friday, fairly calm compared to the rest of the week. For the north of the country, high pressure is right here. But the further south you go, the windier it gets because of this storm down in the Southern Ocean. And that's about to bring in this windy weather thanks to another area of low pressure. So that's putting the squeeze on between the high and the low. So those nor'westers ramp up. And they start on Friday with severe gales and potentially severe gales in some exposed areas of the southeastern corner here, mostly places like Flinders Island and Phillip Island, Kangaroo Island, those places that are a bit more exposed. So into Saturday, and yeah, not the best forecast for our general election. It is going to be very windy across the country. So the rain is mostly on the west coast and a very weak front coming in round about lunchtime going into the North Island. Not very wet on the eastern side of the country. That's the good news, it's dry. The bad news, those nor'westers could be damaging Canterbury, Otago, maybe up to Wellington. It's a little bit hard this early out to be locking it in. But between that low and that high, that is the squash zone. Classic setup in spring to create damaging gusts. So if you can vote earlier this week, do it. Otherwise, Saturday, get out there, but check the forecast before you head out. And over in Australia, Saturday, also a bit miserable in that southeastern corner. Windy, colder, and showery as well. But it does settle down once you get to about Canberra northwards. But on Sunday, again, here comes the next cold front. So by the end of the day, Melbourne and Hobart have the next change coming through. And New Zealand, similar to Saturday, windy weather might actually surge a little further northwards. You've still got high pressure right here, so it's not going to be that wet for northern areas, but it does show you a very classic spring setup smack bang in the middle of October, which is when you would expect it. So this is usually a very unsettled month, usually very windy with westerlies. It's exactly what we're getting. So it's good to see some normality after a strange year, especially in New Zealand weather-wise. We have a fairly normal weather pattern at the moment. That is all from me. We'll see you again tomorrow. And don't forget, later today, we've also got our 7-day Pacific Islands forecast which we put out every Tuesday now. So that's coming out later on today. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday, with our next update.